All right, so section 2, histograms. First of all, a histogram is a type of frequency chart. Frequency refers to how many times something happens. A histogram is essentially a bar graph. The only difference between the two is that a histogram shows the frequencies, quantitative data, and bars are showing the frequencies of categorical data. So bar graph might be the color of shoes, red, white, green, blue. And that could be your label of the x-axis. So if the x-axis is labeled with things other than numbers, you call it a bar graph. When the x-axis is labeled with numbers, you call it a histogram because it's showing how many times that numerical data is repeating. So histograms. The y-axis of a histogram is always labeled frequency. The y-axis must always begin at 0. The title of the x-axis depends on the type of data you are collecting or the type of data collected. The x-axis does not have to begin at 0. It might start at 2020 and you're keeping track of years of something, or if it's, again, that essential bar graph, it might be colors of shoes that you're collecting data over. And so the x-axis does not have to begin at 0 on a graph like this. The height of the bars, that again corresponds to the frequency at which the observation is occurring. The first step for making a histogram is you're going to first create a frequency chart. I need to add the word chart there. Frequency chart. You're going to first create a frequency chart. The data can be tallied up individually, or you can have the frequency chart be in groups or intervals. And we'll talk about that here when we make our first histogram. If your interval is too small, you may have too many short bars. And if your intervals are too big, you might only have a couple of tall bars. And so let's look over and create a histogram together. So when we're looking at this data, okay, the first thing we have to do is create a frequency chart, okay? This over here is a frequency chart. So notice here we have intervals. Our data is ranging from 20 or 18 all the way up into the 60s. You don't want 46 bars here, okay? So we need to group our data, okay? And so putting them in groups of 20 is going to be the most beneficial. So this first interval is going to be 1 to 20. The second interval is going to be 21 to 41. The next one would be, 21 to 40. And as seen in the x-axis here, you can fill that in. Then we'd have our 41 to 60. Then 61 to 80. And once you get these labeled in, you would want to do tallies as you get the data out of the list. So I'd simply look at my list here. The first number is 50. I'd place a tally in the corresponding box, and then I would cross it off of the list. 42, 45, 68, 32, 67, so on and so forth. And you can go ahead and fill these in. will pause the video at this point, and then video number 2 will finish up histogram 1 and 2.